Hello, today I am going to talk about cover letter best practices. This is the second webinar in our webinar series. I am Jessica Harrington. I'm the Director of Career Development at the Lighthouse. So to get started, what is a cover letter? Well, a cover letter is a one-page document that introduces a job seeker's work history. It introduces your skills and your interests in applying for a job. A cover letter is a tool that hiring managers and recruiters are then able to use along with their resume to help screen their applicants. So do you actually need a cover letter? I'm going to argue yes. Here's why. Many employers will require it, but only about 47% of job seekers actually write cover letters when they're applying. So it helps to set you apart from those that don't write a cover letter. And it also gives you a chance to add a personal touch to your resume. Really, your resume should be a summary of your skills and achievements. You're not going to get into a lot of I statements or talk about what your interest is in a particular company. And your cover letter is an opportunity to do that. So what makes a good cover letter? Well, you want to make sure that you personalize it for the job that you are applying to. You would like to, if possible, include the hiring manager's name that will be reading the cover letter. This isn't always possible, and if you're unable to find this, then you can just say hiring manager and to whom it may concern. We'll get into that just a little bit more in a bit. You want to make sure that you don't just talk about why you want to work for a particular employer, but also make sure that they know how hiring you would benefit them. Don't apologize for yourself. If you have gaps in work history or say you don't have a lot of experience in a particular field that you're applying for, that's okay. At the end of the day, you want to focus on the positive, you want to focus on your achievements. On that note, make sure you're including measurable achievements. When I say measurable achievements, you want to include things like decreased expenses by 25% or manage staff of 7 people. Focus on actual numbers so they have an idea of what you've been doing, if you can. Don't overdo it with flowery language either. A lot of times when I'm looking at students' cover letters, I see these very long sentences, maybe use a lot of big words, but they can get a little too wordy because we're trying so hard to be professional. You want to keep it professional, but also want to make sure that you keep it concise. And on that note, don't go over a page. A cover letter really shouldn't be longer than a page. When you get into that, you're really probably writing more of a personal statement. And some positions may require that. Obviously, graduate schools will likely require that. But, for the purposes of applying for an internship or a job, really just a 3/4 of a page cover letter will do it. And finally, make sure somebody proofreads it. You want to make sure that there's no grammatical errors, spelling errors, and also having somebody proofread it gives you a chance to make sure everything makes sense. Because when we're writing things, sometimes you might think to yourself, yeah, this sounds great. And then someone else might read it and say, I have no idea what you're saying here. So it's always good to have somebody look over whatever you're writing. This is just a very basic outline of what your cover letter could look like. You're going to have your header at the top, preferably matching your resume. You want to include the date spelled out. And then you also want to include the name of the person that you are applying to, their title, the company, and the company's full address. Dear Mr. Smith, I'm applying for this position. I learned about the position through Marlin Careers or Indeed or wherever you heard about it. I feel that I have the skills, experience, and education that make me a great fit for this position. And you want to talk a little bit about why you want to work there. Then you're going to have a paragraph talking about your education, paragraph talking about your experience, a summary right at the end there, and then sincerely, your name. So some notes about formatting. You're going to keep it in a business letter format. You want to make sure it's left aligned with the date written out, like I said. Leave space for your signature. I think it's always best if you actually sign your cover letter with your name printed below it, which we'll talk about. If you can't do that, you can use a signature font and then have your name printed below it as well. And like I said, try to match the header to your resume and try to keep it under a page. So this is just a very basic example of what your header could look like. It's okay to use a little bit of color here. Don't go crazy, no neon colors, but something professional like a navy, maroon, dark green, charcoal, like those are all okay. So you want to make sure that you include your phone number. You don't have to include your full address. You can just include city, state, and zip code. Your email address, and if you have a LinkedIn page that you feel particularly proud of, you can include that here, or a link to your portfolio as well if you have a really nice finalized portfolio. So that first paragraph is going to be your introduction. You're going to talk about what you're applying for. You want to talk about what you outline in your letter and why you want this position. And you want to keep it straightforward. You want to keep it concise. Really should only be about 4 sentences here. Basically this is your chance to say, I'm applying for this position. I feel like I'm a great fit for it. And, I really want to work for XYZ company because of your community outreach or, this particular program that you use or the advancements that you've made in blah, blah, blah. So that's what this paragraph is intended for. Your second and third paragraphs are going to talk about your education and experience. You're going to want to talk about relevant courses that you've taken. Maybe if you've done research or you had a study abroad experience. Maybe you've had an internship already and you want to talk about what you learned at that internship and how that helped prepare you for this position. You want to just include highlights. Don't sit there and focus like, I worked at an office as an office assistant and I answered the phones and I filed client files. That's not what you want to focus on. You want to focus on, I efficiently and accurately overhauled the company's filing system. I provided great customer service and I really learned how to multitask in that position. And then focus on experience that actually relates to what you're applying for. Now that said, say you have experience working, I don't know, at a fast food restaurant and you're applying for a business position, right? Well, you might think to yourself, this doesn't relate at all, but really it does. You can take the skills that you learn in one field and apply it to another. So, if you worked in the fast food industry, you're probably great at working under pressure. You learned a lot of skills about multitasking, working as a team, dealing with customers, providing exceptional customer service, things like that. So there's always a way to relate any experience that you've had to what you're doing. You just don't want to focus too much on that specific field if you're going into a different field. So that final paragraph and send off, you want to reiterate your interest, thank them for their consideration. I appreciate your consideration and I look forward to speaking with you further about my skills and experience. It's just a simple send off. Again, I am really excited about this position. And then make sure you sign it with, sincerely, sign your name, and then type it. And this is kind of an example of how you could do that. If you don't have a printer that you have accessible to you, or say you're submitting it online, you know, you could always do something like this where you have sincerely, your signed or cursive print of your name, and then the same font underneath. So of course, anytime you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me by email at jharrington@vwu.edu. You can also make an appointment with me by going to my Calendly, and you know, I'm available anytime, regardless of the time of year. So please reach out if you need to. I'm always happy to help with cover letters. I hope you all have a good day.